Hello parents and welcome to A Parent's Guide to Anime and Conventions. I hope the COVID-19 virus has not made you too stir crazy as the epidemic has closed our schools and our large gatherings. And you may have noticed during this shutdown that your children are watching some rather strange media, some rather strange cartoons, and you may be asking them, what the heck are you watching? No worries, I am Kat with Cosplay, and I will be sitting with you for a few minutes to explain what the heck your children are watching. A little bit of introduction about myself. My name is Kat. I am an IT professional in real life, and I also run a side business making comic book costumes and anime costumes for people that go to conventions. Sadly, because our convention season has effectively been canceled, I am using this time to put a few of my panels online, including this parent's guide to anime and conventions. I have a daughter myself. She is 2 years old come June, and I now understand a lot of the concerns that parents have regarding the media they consume. So let's begin. First, we are going to discuss what exactly is anime. Anime is Japanese slang for cartoons. It is derived from the word animation, which was borrowed from French to describe, well, animation. The trademark big eyes and small mouth anime style was inspired by Max Fleischer, and Disney cartoons. The literary equivalent, called manga, or comic books, translates to the words funny pictures. We have anime that's usually based off of manga and vice versa. We also have anime and manga that's also based on historical events and influential people. There's series that are based off of the French Revolution. There's a series based off of Anne Frank. There's a series based off of Anne of Green Gables. There is a flavor for everyone for different tastes. In the U.S., anime is often used to differentiate cartoons, Western cartoons from Japan and other Asian countries. And if you are an OG like me, if you're an old schooler like me, you may also have heard anime referred to as Japanimation. Now I know what you are saying, but Kat, what is my child watching? I didn't watch these crazy cartoons when I was growing up. But what if I told you you've been watching anime all along? Do any of these cartoons look familiar to you? All these series, in whole or in part, were created by Japanese studios or Korean studios. So, in fact, you are watching anime. Most of these series were created by either TMS Entertainment or Toei Animation. And the one in the bottom right-hand corner, Batman the Animated Series, was created by Sunrise Productions. In fact, after they finished the Batman the Animated Series, they created what is now known as the Japanese Batman, called the Big O, which is basically what Bruce Wayne would look like if he piloted a giant robot. Maybe you enjoyed Transformers as a child. This was actually two toy lines bought out by Hasbro that was reworked to create what we now know as Transformers. The two toy lines were known as Diaclone and Microman. And in their original toy line, the Decepticons were the good guys in their toy line to protect children's dreams. Maybe you enjoyed Voltron when you were a kid. You were actually watching two series bought by World Events Productions, Beast King Go Lion and Dairugger 15, which was cut apart and then put back together to create what we now know as Voltron. Did you enjoy Robotech in the 90s? You were actually watching 3 different Macross series that was spliced together to create Robotech. Maybe you grew up watching Star Blazers in the 70s. It was actually Space Battleship Yamato. My father loved Battle of the Planets and G-Wing when he was a child. but what he was really watching was Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man. Now that we have established that anime is nothing new, let's go over a brief history of anime. The first known anime created was between 1907 and 1911, called Katsudo Saishin, which means moving pictures, and is the exhausting length of 3 seconds. It features a boy writing the kanji for moving pictures, tipping his hat, and waving. In the 30s and 40s, anime was used for educational and propaganda purposes, similar to the 30s and 40s Disney cartoons and Looney Tunes cartoons was used to promote World War II. In the 50s and 60s, we saw the modern anime era pioneered by Osamu Tezuka and Toei Animation. In the 70s and 80s, we saw the anime boom. Movies like Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind and Akira saw international and critical success. We also saw anime produced for home video and television like Lupin III. And some series, as we have seen, were exported and repackaged for a U.S. audience. Animation studios also collaborated with foreign studios to produce cartoons such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Jem and the Holograms. In the 90s and 2000s, we saw what was called the Western anime boom. Cartoons such as Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon saw international mainstream success, and cable networks started broadcasting dedicated programming blocks exclusively for anime. Anime also became more commercially available for the low price of $30 for a 2-episode VHS tape. Luckily, anime has gotten a lot cheaper since then. We also saw the debut of more experimental and mature series like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell. Now parents, I know what you are thinking. All this information is great, but it doesn't really explain why your child enjoys this medium. Now, I can't speak for your child or every child out there, but I can explain partially why I enjoy anime as a lifelong anime fan. Japanese studios still rely on hand-drawn animation, which sadly is becoming a dying art. As we move towards CGI and other forms of computer animation. And there's just a really nice charm to hand-drawn animation and doing it the old-fashioned way. The anime features exciting stories that don't talk down to the audience. In a lot of these series, we see our characters dealing with real-world issues such as body image issues, mental illness, and fitting in society. And these themes do speak to a lot of children, especially if their children don't quite fit into the mainstream culture in their schools. There's also accessibility. Many of these series feature school-age children. When Sailor Moon first came out in the mid-90s, I was a 15-year-old high school student, and I got to see these characters that were my age going on these fantastic fantasy adventures and being able to beat on bad guys, and that really spoke to me. There's also escapism, because hey, we're going on these great adventures and doing things that are physically impossible. And in a scary time such as the one we're living in now with a pandemic going on, a lot of children may look to these series just to have that escapism, just to get away from reality for a bit. There's also an exposure to different culture. A lot of my interest in Japan and in Eastern culture was sparked by anime because they lived slightly different from the way that I lived, and it's really fascinating to see those cultural touches. It's also an inclusive community. I am an LGBT person myself, and it was really great to be amongst these people and have no one care that about my sexual orientation or about my friend's gender identity, and really just no one cared. It's an inclusive community. People of all shapes and sizes and stripes are welcome, and that could make a lot of difference for someone that doesn't fit into their school like I did, or like maybe your child doesn't fit into school. And to have that refuge where they can just be themselves can make a lot of difference. But please don't take my word for it. Please take a few minutes to watch this YouTube video from YouTube user Gagook to explain why he enjoys anime. Normally, at this point in the panel, I would show Gagook's YouTube video on why he enjoys anime. However, since this panel is going to be put on YouTube, I want him to get his views and his monetization. So I am instead giving you parents a homework assignment. So when you finish this panel, please go give his video a look on his channel. And thank you, Gagook, for your insightful video about the appeal of anime. So parents, you may still be asking, what the heck is my kid watching? Well, the best way to understand what your child is watching is to watch the series with them. And I'm going to spend the next few minutes to mention a few series that are age appropriate that you can watch with your child. For preschoolers, I recommend Doraemon, which is on Disney XD, and Unico, which is a really cutesy Tezuka series. It's 2 movies. The DVDs are really cheap, and it's a really cute series that you can watch with your child. For your grade school kids, I recommend Astro Boy, or the tried and true favorite, Pokemon. Also, any movie by Studio Ghibli is aimed towards grade school kids, and they're really cute. They're really awesome. They feature really strong female characters if that's what you're into. I also recommend Princess Knight, which is admittedly a very dated Tezuka series. Hi, I'm a Tezuka fangirl. But it features a really strong female character that is posing as a boy. It's kind of reminiscent of Looney Tunes, and you may notice some familiar voices in that series. For middle schoolers, I recommend Naruto and Inuyasha. Those are some really popular tried and true series. There's not much untoward going on in this series, and they're really, really exciting. Fruits Basket is also an enjoyable series. They just redid the series to be more faithful to the manga, so you can watch the more recent one. I will kind of warn you, it does feature a bit mature content referring to abuse, so please be aware of that. Also, when Slayers apparently came out when I was in middle school, if I had known this series existed, I would have eaten it up with a spoon, because I love D&D style fantasy series, and Lena Inverse is kind of my spirit animal, so enjoy that. And for your teenagers, your high schoolers, I recommend, of course, Dragon Ball Z or Sailor Moon. Also, Fullmetal Alchemist and Revolution Girl Utena. Fullmetal Alchemist and Utena deal with some rather mature themes that I think teenagers can relate to, especially Utena, which deals with LGBT issues and also deals with issues regarding abuse and abusive relationships. I would really recommend watching these series with your children. Which leads me to my next topic. Some of these series do have potentially problematic content, and some of these feature violence, some of these feature death of different characters, and depending on your value system, religious content, sexual orientation, and gender identity, some of them have some sexual content and nudity. And really, I can't warn you of every problematic content in every single series. So what I would recommend is researching the series before letting your children watch it. There are reviews online. You can usually find these series on Wikipedia that describe what happens in these series. And you know your child better than me. You know what they can handle. You know what they can't handle. And I would recommend talking to your child and discuss with them your value system and why this content may be problematic to you. As for the last line on this slide, yaoi, yuri, hentai, ecchi, eroge, these are all just different terms for different types of pornography. And your kids don't need to watch it. Enough said. Believe it or not, attending conventions and watching anime can lead to applications to real world skills. If your child wants to go to a convention, you could tell your child, okay, you're paying for it, which can lead to budgeting and financial responsibility. If your child wants to cosplay, that can lead them to learn how to set and achieve goals, time management, because they have to balance their cosplay with their getting their homework done. It also leads to project management skills because they have to learn how to budget their time and learn how to break their project into small chunks so they can accomplish their project before go time at the convention. If they wish to do panels, that's public speaking and research skills because they can't just wax poetic about how much they love a series. They need to go in depth into their topic of discussion. Personally, when I was in college, I royally hated public speaking. In fact, when a teacher asked me to do public speaking, they had to practically shove me out onto the stage and so to do my public speaking, and I was terrified until I went to a convention and someone asked me to do a presentation on cosplay, and that forced me to get over my fear, and now I go around the country to speak in public about topics that interest me. If your child's learning to cosplay, there's sewing and crafting skills, and that is always a very important life skill to have. And if a child is shy, going to a convention could help them develop social skills. A lot of conventions do attract people that are on the autism spectrum or have attention deficit disorders. And I have seen these people that are autistic or have ADD that are normally really, really shy just open up, and that they're amongst their people. They have these are people that love what they love, and it really helps them to open up. And if you're interested, this is also an exposure to foreign languages and culture. In fact, I do speak Spanish and English, but I also started learning Japanese because I watch a lot of fan subs. I collect some manga in their original Japanese, and so I started learning Japanese so I can read the manga that in its original Japanese, or listen to some of my favorite series without having to look at the subtitles. And there are foreign exchange programs that do take children to, that could take your child to Japan or Korea, or so they can learn more about the culture of different countries. Now let's switch gears and talk a little bit about cosplay, since I have mentioned this in previous slides. And when your child goes to a convention, they're probably going to want to cosplay because they see the grown-ups wearing these really cool costumes and they really want to get into this. So a good pro tip for cosplay is to preview screenshots of the character. Take screenshots of the character to the fabric store so that you can compare colors, so that you can compare clothing styles and learn how to craft these costumes. Also, be the voice of reason. So let's say your child wants to be the main character from Kill La Kill. It says, okay, well, maybe your child can be the main character in the schoolgirl outfit, but not in the bra and panties version when she goes all magical girl. It's also a potential bonding experience if you know how to sew, or your parent knows how to sew. It could be a great bonding experience as you teach your child this skill, or your parents teach their grandchildren this skill, or maybe you guys can learn together and cosplay together. And you can also be there to help them break down their project, because it can be intimidating when you first start a really big project. You can help them break down their project into manageable chunks to set and achieve their goals. I also highly encourage competing. Most all the competition experiences I've enjoyed. I played rec softball. I've done competitions in karate, but I enjoy cosplay competitions the most because it is very inclusive. Everyone's very encouraging of each other, and it's the most enjoyable competing experience that I personally have had. Which leads me to my next topic, how to be a rockin' con parent. Before you go to a convention, please read the rules and policies for your kids and discuss what's expected before going. That should minimize any arguments you have on the con floor. During one convention I was at, I had a parent laying into her child because she wanted to go to a friend's room and her parent said, "You're not a slut," which isn't really something you should be saying to your child. Buy a badge and attend events with them. It's a great bonding experience, and it could help you understand why your child is into this medium and why they're into conventions. And cosplay with your kids. It's fun, it's wonderful, and it's great to take pictures with them. Let your kids take charge. Give them a little bit of freedom. Let them lead the way and go down the rabbit hole with them. Also, because you're a parent, please make sure they follow the 621 rule. It is a very important rule of con survival. Make sure they get their sleep, make sure they eat, and make sure they shower. Please make sure they shower. And also, the 621 rule is a great way to keep your children healthy. It boosts your immune system because you're well rested, you have good nutrition, and you're practicing proper hygiene. And given we are living in a pandemic at the moment, this is more important than ever. If you have small children, many conventions have what are called chibi events that are exclusively targeted at them. My favorite convention, Animazement in Raleigh, North Carolina, has what's called a chibi room, where you can take small children that have puzzles and toys that they can play with. And it's a great way to chill out from the convention, get away from the craziness, and give your children something to do. Many conventions also have cultural events that are great learning experience and pretend that your child is learning. You can also sample different anime styles with your children. Many conventions have video rooms where you can watch different anime series with your children and maybe expose yourself to something that you may enjoy. Post your pictures or take them for your kids and buy them a few things within reason. Buy them a plushie, maybe not the $300 Gundam model, but hey, a little Pikachu plushie, it would be a great way to remember your time together. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention a few rules on convention etiquette. Please be quiet during panels and video showings. If you do have an argument with your child, please take it outside of the panel room so that the people in the panel do not have to hear it. Also, do not touch other people without consent, especially during this pandemic we're going through. It's always good to ask people for permission, and also ask for taking a picture because you don't really want a picture of someone picking their nose. Try to keep arguments off the con floor. If your child's getting tired, if they're getting cranky or depressed, it may be good to take them back to the hotel room and take a break. Also, be the example of how you want your kids to act, because kids don't listen to what we say, they listen to what we do. And of course, monkey see, monkey do. So be the example of how you want your children to act. And if you have an issue, please speak to con staff security. If you have an issue with another con goer, if you have an issue with a vendor or another staff member, it is better to talk with con staff security because one, they cannot do anything unless they know about it, and they're paid to deal with issues. You're not. You're there to enjoy the convention. This leads me to my next topic, safety. Most importantly, please remember the convention is not a daycare. I wish I had $1 for every time I've seen a parent drop their children off at a convention and just leave them there for the day, so I could smack them with my fat wad. Now, while incidents at conventions are rare, they do happen, and a convention cannot be expected to watch your child when they're having to watch anywhere from 300 people to 30,000 people and be responsible for them. So Please do not leave them there and expect them to be okay. Research convention reviews beforehand. If you hear a lot of bad reviews at a convention, that's probably a good indication, that this may not be a good convention to take your child. Now, if your child is under high school age, please stay with your child to make sure they're safe and make sure they behave themselves. Now, if they're high school age, they're probably mature enough to strike out on their own, but at least make them check in with you at least once a day or go with an adult chaperone. At any rate, make your child carry emergency information with them just in case they do get into trouble and cannot speak for themselves, and carry an emergency cell phone. Nothing fancy, maybe a cheap burner phone with some minutes on it so they can call you if they get into an emergency or they need to find you. And while you're with your child, locate where con-ops and medical stations are for emergencies and make sure your child knows where they are. If you haven't already, give your small children the good touch, bad touch speech before the convention. Teach them where it is socially appropriate for someone to touch them and where it is not. Also, teach them that adults should only ask other adults for help, and it's okay for them to say no, even when it's a grown-up telling them to do something. Also, teach them they do not have to give out personal information to anybody, even if it's someone saying they are a part of staff. In the case of it being a staff member, the staff already has access to their personal information because they give it when they register for the convention. Unfortunately, we do live in the age of cyberstalkers. I have had a few myself, and the more difficult we make it for your child to be tracked, the better. Also, do not let them visit another congoer's room or vice versa for obvious reasons, especially if the other congoer is significantly older. That is definitely a bad look. Also, please let them know you will come pick them up no matter what. If they get into trouble, if they violate your trust, you'll still come pick them up and you'll still love them. A good illustration for these last 2 points is a few years ago at San Diego Comic-Con, a 17-year-old girl never came home from the convention, and her mother posted information on Facebook to try to find out where her daughter was. She eventually showed up in an emergency room, local emergency room in San Diego, with bruises all over her and a concussion. And she told her mother and the authorities that she had been attacked at the convention. It would later come out that this girl had been drinking, the 17-year-old girl had been drinking, and her adult chaperone tried to get her to leave the convention, which escalated into a fight, and the young girl ran away, tripped over a barrier, and cracked her head on concrete. The chaperone was charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and the 17-year-old girl was charged with underage drinking and filing a false police report, all because she did not want her mother to know that she had been drinking while underage. So it's better to be honest, it's better to foster an environment of honesty and to ease that fear in your child. It's like, okay, even if you screw up, I'm still going to take care of you. So to switch gears from that down note, here are a few resources that I consulted in creating this panel: A Parent's Guide to Anime, Librarian's Guide to Anime and Manga, and Otaku Survival Guides. These are really good sources on convention survival, on anime itself, and also provides a lot of resources on different anime titles in case you're wondering if a title would be good for your child to watch. Another really good guide, if you are of the literary persuasion, is The Parent's Guide to Anime by David Rothman. There's a lot of great information, lots of pictures, some that I was not able to cover in this discussion. And the book's only $10, so I highly recommend picking that up. And here we are at the end of the discussion. I thank you so much for your time and allowing me into your homes to discuss this topic. And I would like to emphasize the message of this slide, which is keep calm and enjoy. Watch some anime with your kids while you are quarantined, and if you are looking for one final recommendation, I highly suggest Wolf Children. It's a very cute movie, lots of warm, fuzzy feels, and at the end, you may want to call your mom. So keep calm and enjoy. This has been Cosplay. I hope to see you at a convention soon after all this pandemic blows over. And once again, thank you.